Good morning, welcome to a Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 24th of June. So let's look at these markets. Firstly, looking at the risk of events. We'll have a quick flick through this for this week actually. Today we don't really have too much. We do have the Bank of Canada governor speaking later at 6:45, but we've got an FOMC meeting member this morning, but he's opening a meeting. You can see what he's doing. He's delivering the opening remarks. I don't expect that to be too specific. 9 o'clock, we've got the German IFO business climate. Sometimes that gives a little wibbly wobbly, but that's about that's the extent of it. Well put there. Canadian for tomorrow, then we've got inflation coming out. Now this has been softening largely. Now if we see anything here which holds on a little bit, maybe it will be beneficial for the Canadian dollar, but it might be an expected slowdown in cuts or something. But aside of that, that's that. We've got the Bank of England Bailey speaking. That's another opening remarks. We've got core durable goods US on Thursday. I did miss something there. We've got the inflation, got that. Oh, inflation Australia as well. Now this is a bit more key. That's on Wednesday though. So it's a relatively modest week there on the numbers. So hopefully we get a decent week in terms of price action. So looking at the price action, we move on to the euro dollar daily here. Didn't quite get a lower high on that last move on Friday. Friday's move came down, double bottomed it almost, pretty close to, but we're now sitting into the underside of the weekly pivot. It's really a question of, this is a 4-hourly chart onto the weekly pivot. I've been more recently popping these down to an hourly chart onto it and looking for entries. It did eventually break down on Friday, more properly, taking out the lows. I was waiting for that earlier in the week where it started it stopped me out earlier in the week. Anyway, for now, the S1's quite close, so it's a lot easier. Just looking at last week's S1, which wasn't hit, bearing in mind it did break down. If we did see a bit more of a reaction, well, it could go on beyond that. But as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3 different pivots there. There's this week's S1. We've got a quarterly S1 and last week's S1, S2 sort of sitting there. There's this week's S2 sitting just below there as well. So there's a few levels underneath there if it does start rolling over. And it's a bit of an if. We'll see what happens this morning. It's holding on okay. On Friday it just really chopped on sideways. Just while these markets are getting to their sort of summer stride. Okay, the pound now. Some are starting to talk this down a little bit as they see reform voting potentially increasing. Realistically, there's no chance of reform getting into any power. So the fact that they're talking about it so much, and it's a complete nonsense. But it's people that don't understand the politics here. Obviously, it was an Asian session chitter chatter going through there. Anyway, looking at the pound again, I'm sort of looking at here. It hasn't got up to its weekly pivot yet, and if these start moving up there, sure there might be some uncertainty kicking in for the following week. It's week Thursday. We've got the polling. But it's pretty much expected a landslide Labour election win. Anyway, we don't really know what they're doing, do we? Anyway, it's chopping along. They haven't really worked it out. I don't think it's going to affect the pound too much. It's probably quite priced in already. Not a lot happening there, so it's whether or not we get a bit more of a bounce off that 4-hourly 50. Anyway, the yen, this amazes me, that despite the Bank of Japan talking about they'll take 24-hour action if necessary to protect the currency, well, the yen's been losing more ground, and we're nearly sitting there into the 160 area now as the US dollar is pushed up against the yen. to be fair, the US dollar isn't really pushed up against anything else, so it is really a weak yen that we're seeing here, and certainly looking at the euro yen, etc. So the risk remains for the yen that they might do something at some stage and just fire a lot of money in there. I think if we see the previous highs there hit, that could happen. Maybe it might start this morning, who knows, but whether it needs to be sustained. If it's just a one-off shot, this is what happens with a one-off shot, and we've seen it back here. I think it drifted back down over this period when there was suggestion of it, but to make any real difference, something needs to change. Anyway, Aussie dollar. The Aussie dollar strengthening a little bit this morning, but it's still sitting in this range. Now, I say strengthening, I'm really looking at the weekly pivot here. It seems to have taken a bit of a bounce off that at the moment. We'll see what happens first thing here, but there is a chance. I mean, it's sitting on the underside of its daily pivot. It could just roll back off that and continue. We've got the lower highs through on the alley picture here. 4 alleys, where you can see the big lower high kicking in there. It's just a bit of an in-betweener here. US dollar CAD continues to chop along here. The Canadian there we are, continues to chop along here. The Canadian dollar is gradually getting that little bit stronger and getting the lower highs, lower lows against the US dollar here. We have got inflation this week, but it had a reaction there on Friday. They had reacted to the upper trend line there. We nearly taken out, we ignoring the little weird the expansion of spreads there last night. We've taken out the low effectively. It's given us a lower high, looking like it could just continue, and that's downside. Just maybe finding a bit of support off previous lows at this stage. It could be a player on the cross side, and I'm looking at the likes of the. I'll just go to it straight away here. The likes of the Euro CAD. So we could see a bit of a play onto something like this. Just waiting to see. That's going to slow down here. Here we go, EuroCAD. Just waiting to see if it runs into its weekly pivots and we get a bit of a reaction. It was pretty slow on Friday, as you can see, but the euro just didn't move at all. So EuroCAD is sitting into its yearly pivot, though. That's the only problem there. Okay, likes the euro yen is still plenty of strength sitting there at the moment, but it too is near those prior highs here, so there is the risk of switch back on this, or some sort of intervention even, but the general trend is up there. It's ironic. On Friday I think I said, whatever you do, don't be short in this, and it immediately sold on the rubbish news there that came out. This PMI data came out pretty rubbish, but it got back up there. It's just a fake. Well, no, it's a reaction to the news. Okay, so not a great deal here. The first thing this morning, I'm going to look through some more of these cross pairs in a short while. Actually, it's just did I look at the Swissy? For those looking at the Swissy, I'm waiting for more upside here, and I've put an alert down to the. This is one that's sort of against its near-term trend a little bit here, but I'm looking to see if we get a reaction back off its weekly pivot if it gets here. It did slow up after the comments, etc., and it had the a 0.25% cut. Just waiting to see what happens here. They do not like the fact that it's over. It's a bit too strong, and they will step in and intervene as well. So we know that's happening, but it would be in my favour if they did. So if I'm looking on the long side here, any intervention would be for the upside. Anyway, That's not happening quite yet, or not ready quite yet, but it's something I'm looking at more on a swing basis. Right, let's just quickly, for those that are into gold and trade elsewhere, the gold price then. Gold coming off a bit this morning. Friday just ended up looking quite ugly in the end. Gold for me is probably going to just sit in a range. I'm just looking at it and I'm just thinking, well, what's driving it either way? There's this bigger range that it's sitting in, and well, that might be it for now. And we might have some time before it really sorts itself out, but we'll see. It really did come off on the end of last week there. Really powerful. 2 o'clock there, come off there. At the moment, shorter time frames, well, we've got the untouched daily pivot above. It could be a draw for it, but really messy and a bit clueless in terms of direction. Crude oil, well, largely now we've been into this upward trend. Friday was almost like a key reversal sitting in there on Friday, mainly late on in the day. I would look later on today to see how we get on with this weekly pivot. If it's back to the weekly pivot, I'll look for a buy off that. For now, at least, it can. Obviously, this is these are weekly pivots. These 4-hourly bars here, just showing you a week of action kicking across here. You see, it's pretty flat for most of the week. The last couple of weeks, it's just a bit of an early surge, but we'll see what happens. So that's what I'm waiting for. There, it's my plan. Let's see if I can get back into trading it in the afternoons. US markets, S&Ps, really just tightening up here into its yearly R2 area. Just holding on up in that area. It's slowing up. They say selling may and go away. Well, no one really no one got the email this year because it's gone up so far on all these markets. The Nasdaq hanging in there, a little bit softer looking, but Dow Jones on Thursday pushed up there, taking out the higher give. It's just moving from one event to another event, and in between they're just a bit directionless. And this is quite a mess here when we look through into the dailies. It has pushed up a little bit this morning, but really lower highs, lower lows. DAX could still be on for some further downside. And the pound, unsurprisingly, with election looming, is a bit rangy, but say unsurprisingly, it's not really doing too much more than anything else. Right, that's the markets there for this morning. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you in the morning. Take care. Have a good one. Bye for now.